code.
This code got cleaned up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She would be great. Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. So I would she's pretty.
No. Not an open session. He can do it from there. You can just pull it over in front of him.
Sure.
Okay, so that was this one. I just don't have to say anything about that. Just okay.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, he's got.
Beginning of something about the board. I'll just read this, then I look up.
Yeah.
It's taken me forever to go through.
Yeah,
I'm not even done yet.
Everybody else has.
yeah. So I closed it. I thought I was gonna be good, but I wasn't.
And then, you know, my office is gonna be really hot.
Oh, I'll turn it.
Well,
I'll open it soon.
So Mark, you were saying about the heat, so there's no heat in here, or is there?
no, I turned the blower off. It was blowing cold air, but I opened this one door and turned the heat up. We'll open this one back up when we get done with the pledge.
We'll get Steve talking and it'll be, it'll be comfortable in no time.
Yeah.
I think it's okay right now. I wore a sweater because I figured it'd be a little chilly, but feels good. So far.
I know.
Yeah.
Mentally, yes, at least 2 or 3. Finally done. Submit it to the board tomorrow. So.
You hear about the,
Thank goodness.
Chronos ransomware?
Got it.
7 week in a row running payroll manually. Fix it well.
Meeting's called to order. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call?
Robin Foster,
Yes.
Brad Waldoff,
Yes.
Jill Wendling,
Yes.
Jane Willenberg, yes, Chad Thompson,
Yes.
Tricia Ware, yes, Steve Ball.
Yes.
All right. Do we have any visitors tonight that would like to address the board? Okay, see none. Mr. Fox, financial report?
We finished November with fund balance of $31,089,546.53. The operating funds made up $25,702,098.30. And HLS funds made up $1,185,200.10. We received revenue in the education fund locally in the amount of $3,476,319.51. From the state in the amount of $578,856.20. And from the federal government of $140,725.56. All expenses over $5,000 are broke out separate with inside your report. And our recommendations this month are to reimburse the interest account in the amount of $1,130.54 and the payment of bills in the amount of $984,782.48. Of that, the HLS projects make up $322,670.68.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have questions for Mr. Fox? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion and a second to approve the financial report to reimburse the Empress account in the amount of $1,130.54 and the payment of bills in the amount of $984,782.48.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Brad, is there a second? Second by Chad. Roll call?
Brad,
Yes.
Jill. Yes. Jane, yes. Chad,
Yes.
Desha,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Robin.
Yes. All right, the consent agenda is next. This month we have minutes enclosed from our November 15th regular meeting, November 16th special meeting, a curriculum committee minutes, technology committee meeting minutes, and the December 7th special meeting minutes. Cafeteria report. Mr. Fox, I had a question about the cafeteria report, just a real brief one. It just caught my attention that the, under revenue, state and federal revenue earned was $1,387.84, which is way, does that come in different amounts? The month before it was $144,000. So I mean, I was just curious if that comes in uneven amounts or,
It comes in whenever our board meeting falls, things
Okay.
fall at different times, and depending on when the board meeting is each month, we may or may not have received the payment before the board meeting. And
Okay.
so it depends on when the board meeting falls as to whether or not we receive that payment for that reimbursement, so.
but typically we're going to get closer to the 144 that we got last
In
month.
any month when we have an early meeting, we're not gonna have that. It's gonna look like we got nothing in revenue. But in
Right.
months when we have our normal meeting, it looks a lot better. And
Okay,
actually, the month after a early meeting.
We have
we're really
tons.
good because
Right.
we get a whole bunch.
okay,
So it all depends on when the meeting is.
okay, okay. All right, thank you. Student teachers, we have one student teacher coming, Jalen Daters, going to be an intern student teacher for Cheryl Scanlon, second grade Southside during the second semester. Fundraisers, we have several fundraisers to look at. The first is the National Honor Society at the high school. They will be selling grand variety candy bars to raise funds for scholarships, January 10th to the 24th of 22. EHS competition basketball cheer team will have a formal dress sale event to raise funds for clinics, camp deposits, other team-related expenses on February 18th and 19th. Central School PE will have an American Heart Association fundraiser in the PE classes to raise funds for the American Heart Association and the Central School PE program, January 24th to February 18th. And at the Early Learning Center, they will be selling students art to remember keepsakes, to preserve kindergarten memories and gain financial support to pursue rewards, assemblies, and activities. And that will be from February 21st to April 29th. And those are the fundraisers that have been submitted for this month. We also have approval to post for public review, policy updates and changes. Issue 108, November 2021. We have no correspondence. I will entertain a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Jill, by Desha. Okay, I'm sorry. Desha made the motion. Second by Jill. Okay, I heard it come from this direction. All right, motion by Desha, second by Jill.
Don't take my motion.
Roll call.
Jill? Yes. Jane, yes. Chad?
Yes.
Desha? Yes. Steve?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Brett?
Yes.
All right, superintendent's report.
Excuse me, sorry. First of all, no foundation report, although I know that the breakfast with Santa was held on the 4th. I don't have any data on that.
We estimate we had about 800 attendees.
Oh, good.
That sounds large.
Enrollments enclosed, the total is 2,309 students. That's 46 less than the previous year. Just shared with you some social media analytics. This is in the past month. Facebook reach was 36,000, a little over 36,000, and 42 new followers. The app reached 13,287 with 27 downloads, and YouTube views were 1.6 thousand and 5 new subscribers. So that's pretty good for a monthly analytic part. I'll ask Jason to step forward. While he's doing that, I just want to, he's going to talk about the HLS annual walkthrough and the notification of the maintenance grant. So turn it over to Mr. Fox.
Okay, last week we had our annual walkthrough, which was health, life, safety inspection. The ROE and the state fire marshal walk every building. The state fire marshal is very thorough. He crawls under desk. He goes in every single classroom, checks every closet, goes under the stages, you name it. So at the end of the day, we got out with our best evaluations ever and got high compliments from both the ROE and the state fire marshal. The only things they marked on there, and actually they marked extension cords in buildings, which they stated we did not find any, but we put it on here just because we want to remind you not to have them. CO2 detectors, which were in place and working, but they put it on there because they want to make sure we continue to have them in place and working. And then a few minor things here and there. Ceiling tile was out of where it should have been by, halfway slid over, things like that. Very minimal, and they were very complimentary of the district. So kudos to the building principals, to the staff, and to maintenance and custodial for what they're doing in the buildings to keep them up to date. So also the amount of renovations we've done the last 5 years have put us in a good spot. They couldn't stop talking about the junior high and east side and the condition those two buildings were in and that they're in now. So they were very pleased with what we've done. The other thing, the maintenance grant, if you remember, we asked for permission to write for a $50,000 matching maintenance grant a few months ago. We received notification on Friday. We did receive that. And so we were going to use that towards the central roof that we've already accepted a bid on. The bid was $211,000. So we will now have to pay $161,000 on that roof, of which we are writing an amendment to use health, life, safety funds on that roof. So that'll come out of the HLS fund, and $50,000 of it will be paid for by the state on that matching grant we wrote for and we received. So.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. And then the final item, just wanted to share with the board. I shared with you during the week, but I want to make sure it's publicly, and we'll invite these students next month. But Effingham High School, very proud, and Mr. Roberts was very proud to share as well. We have 29 Illinois State Scholars. And I will tell you, in the 21 years of being a superintendent in every district I've been, we've never had that many. Percentage-wise, it's 18% of our senior class that are Illinois State Scholars. And so that's just want to say thank you to those students, to their parents for their leadership, and then our Unit 40 staff from elementary. Sometimes we forget about K to 8, but those teachers play a huge role in supporting those students, as well as our high school staff. So it's really K-12 that we're so proud of our staff to be able to support our students. So we have 29, so we're going to invite them to the January board meeting. So we're just want to make sure we share that, and we're very proud of that fact. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. New business. We have the FY21 audit report tonight.
Yeah, Doug S. is here from Glass and Shuffett, and Doug has been the auditor. Well, Glass and Shuffett's been the auditor for 20-some years, I imagine, of the district. Doug has been our lead auditor at least 6-7 years at least.
Something like that, yes. It was probably about 5 or 6 years ago when Mr. Hoffman retired.
Yeah. So Doug usually comes in either October or November, but that's kind of been pushed back. And so this is the audit for this past fiscal year. So we're actually talking about FY21.
Correct.
So Doug is here to share some information. This is reading for you. There's a lot of good information in there that you can look through on your own time, but I'll turn it over to Doug.
All right. Thanks, Mark, and thank you to the board for allowing me to come to your meeting and having me do my presentation tonight. And before I get started in any of the financials that I want to discuss, I do want to take this time to commend Mr. Fox here and his staff in the business office. We do have a good working relationship with them. They are very responsive to all of our requests for information and anything we need for the audit. The process went very smoothly, and anytime we have any type of recommendation or how small it may be, they are very quickly to implement it and to accept it. And we just think you guys have a well-run administration here as far as the business office goes, and I think you're in very good hands. Now, saying that, I will base the rest of my presentation here inside the blue book. There was a separate letter that's not bound inside the blue book that has some bold headings on it. I believe there's one that says audit results. So that is kind of just a letter I type for all of my school clients on the major parts of the audit that you really just can't see by looking through the blue book is just the actual rote numbers. So I do a separate letter. I was a school board member at one time in my hometown for 2 terms, and these are things that kind of I was looking for. It was a little bit of a smaller setting. It was an elementary district with a few hundred kids, but most of the concepts still apply. Anyway, I do want to start out with saying, we issued pretty much a clean audit opinion on your financial statements, which means that, we had no problems with the audit, as I said before. We have no problems or no findings in your internal control, which means that, there are no what we call material weaknesses or significant deficiencies that we discovered in the course of our audit that could give opportunity to put district finances at harm as far as misreporting of numbers or misappropriation or misallocation of actual funds. And then also, we didn't have any major instances of non-compliance when we audit the grant programs of the district. So essentially, we got a full clean audit here. Then starting with the numbers, as far as results of operations go, total district receipts for the year were just over 30 million at $30.2 million. The year before was 29 million, so the district took in 1.2 million more in fiscal year 21 than it did in fiscal year 20. And the reason for that is because of federal funding. There were a significant increase in receipts and federal funding in the special education program, in the food service programs, your school lunch and school breakfast programs, because they went to a Everyone Eats Free program. And there was also, of course, CARES Act money that came in for the district in fiscal year 21, which you'll see a bigger influx of that in the coming years. As far as expenditures go, they also, let's see, you had about $32.4 million in expenditures in fiscal year 21. In terms of absolute dollars, the total expenditures actually went down about 4 million from last year for fiscal year 20, which was about 36.5 million. The reason for that is the majority of the junior high and the junior high project was expended in fiscal year 20. And since that was a large project, that plays a big factor in the comparisons. But if you took the large projects out, the fiscal year 21 expenses would have been around 29 million, and fiscal year 20 expenses would have been around 29 million. So you were very, very close once you take out what we call the capital expenditures, payments for building projects and buses and things like that. So when you take those out, your expenditures were very close to being similar from one year to the next. In the four major funds that we look at, what is the education, the operations and maintenance, the transportation, and the working cash, those four funds experienced an increase of about $650,000 between FY20 and FY21. The main, and if you look at over the last 4 years, they've gone up about $5 million. And just to let you know, I don't think I mentioned this before, but the third page of that handout is a statistical comparison. So you can see in there, the second line on that is unassigned fund balances, and you can see the growth in that over the last from fiscal year 17 to fiscal year 21, and that growth appears to be close to about $5 million. And the main reason for that is the influx of state funding when they switched over from general state aid to evidence-based funding. With the new evidence-based funding model, the state receipts went up roughly about $1.1 to $1.2 million per year. And you take that 4 years at $1.2 million, and you pretty much have your $5 million. So that's pretty much the driver behind your increase in fund balances. The next thing is your the district profile score, and essentially what that is it's kind of a grade that ISBE gives to every school district based upon different financial performance factors. The highest score you can get is a 4.0. You guys have a 3.9, which is obviously really close. The only thing that's preventing you from having a perfect score is your debt. According to ISBE's testing, you have to have at least 75% or more of your debt margin available to your disposal in order to get a perfect score of 4. You are at 68%, so you're pretty close, but not quite there. As you pay down the debt on your current existing debt, then that obviously will increase. The percentage remaining will increase. However, if you issue more debt as that goes on, then we'll probably stay where you're at. Just depends on what your future plans are in that area. But that is still a very good score. It puts you in what they call recognition status. I believe you've been in recognition status for a number of years. You've actually been at a 3.9 score now for the 3rd year running. So you're in financially, according to ISBE, you're in good condition. Another factor I look at is what they call days of cash on hand, and essentially what that means is how many days the district can go without receiving a dime of revenue from any source and still have enough cash to meet their operations. So at June 30th, 2021, the days of cash on hand was 263 days. So that's very close to 9 months. So if the state went broke for a while and couldn't fund you any of the evidence-based funding or any of their other sources, and you also didn't receive a dime out of your real estate tax levy for whatever reason, you could have went 9 months into the year without receiving a dime, and you would still have funds. You'd have still been able to survive that. The state ISBE wants you to have 180 days in that category, so you were over their recommendation. Let's see, the next thing I want to talk about is your operating expenses per pupil. Each year, ISBE comes out with a report that shows each district's operating expenses per pupil. And unfortunately, it's always late. So we're always a year behind on looking at this. But for your fiscal year 2020 audit, out of all the unit districts in Illinois, which there are 386 of them, you were the 144th lowest in operating expense per pupil. So you were in about the bottom third, real close to being in the bottom third of operating expense per pupil in the state of Illinois. And your operating expenses per pupil for 2021 actually went down about $300. So I would expect that number to be better next year. You'll be, down lower in the rankings or make you look better that you're spending less comparatively to other districts. Then the last thing I want to talk about just briefly is your self-insurance plan. We do analyze that every year with the self-insurance on your health insurance, on your employee health insurance, and that seems to be going very well. The district contributions to that plan are currently exceeding the claims that are being put through the plan. And you've built up a good, healthy reserve because you never know when something's going to happen, and that it doesn't take much for that to go away. So right now you've got a healthy reserve. It has been building over the last few years since its inception, and it's trending in the right direction. But that's pretty much the main points I wanted to hit. But you can all rest assured, financially, the district is in a good condition, and personnel wise and procedural wise, you're also in good shape that way as well. So if anybody has any questions for me specifically, I would like to take them at this time.
Just out of curiosity, how many different districts does your firm evaluate on an annual basis?
We have about 20 districts in our firm.
Okay, anything else? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And
Thank you,
thank you,
Doug.
Mr. Fox, for the
Yes,
good work
thank
in
you.
your department. I will entertain a motion in a second to accept the FY21 audit as presented.
Motion.
Motion by Steve, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Brad, roll call.
Jane, yes. Chad?
Yes.
Desha?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes. All right, committee reports are next. Mrs. Beth, Curriculum Committee?
Hey. Never mind, he's done. I was going to ask him to move out and leave, but I'm sorry.
Good evening. There are a couple of things to report on from the curriculum committee. One of the items that we had discussed was family and consumer science, and it was cut. There's two positions. One was cut about 6 years ago. We discussed bringing that back. It would allow us to offer more variety. It would also allow us to bring in a reevaluation of the coursework that we are offering and allow students some larger variety of electives. In addition to that, there's a credentialing program that can go along with the child and daycare course that runs through an organization called Gateways to Opportunities. The credentialing is called ECE Level 1, and that basically sets the students who take that course up into a pathway for early childhood education, which means that they could go on and be daycare providers, they could go on and be teachers, and so it would help alleviate, some of the future issues that we've been having in our community, especially with child and daycare. In addition to that, if we're able to get the credentialing into that curriculum, students who actually go through the ECE Level 1 credentialing have additional scholarship opportunities that will help them then further pursue early childhood education degrees as they go on to higher ed. So that was one of the items that we had discussed. I don't know, Robin or Jill, do you have anything you'd want to add to any of that?
No, I think that, I think we just felt, at least in our discussion, that was important that we could bring back the child and daycare program, because with that cut, although we've had a guidance counselor, is my understanding, kind of overseeing a little bit of it, we haven't had the program in its entirety as we used to when we had two family and consumer science teachers. So we felt like that was really a huge benefit for our students. And it was a program that was in big demand, a lot of people, and gave them a great experience too at the Early Learning Center and doing some practical work. So we thought that was really important. Yeah.
And then the other thing that we had discussed at length was having a district librarian. And so this person would be a library media specialist who would oversee all of the district's libraries. The focus would be on instructional purposes, not on supervisory. So I think that's kind of a key point there that we discussed. The focus would be on making advancements throughout our entire district on all of the media centers to bring them up to more state-of-the-art standards, which would obviously happen over time, but that's a goal. And then the other part of it would be bringing in more of a focus on not just the functioning of a library, check in and out materials throughout our district, but also in bringing in the digital literacy component. So trying to weave in the state and national technology standards where they apply. So dealing with digital citizenship and plagiarism and information literacy and things like that. Is there anything, Robin or Jill, you would add?
Again, we don't employ a certified librarian right now, full-time in that capacity in our district. When our last high school librarian retired, who was the certified librarian, she was not replaced, instead with a clerk. So we don't have anyone. Mrs. Flack is certified, but that's not her job. But she allows us to file state reports and so on because she has that certification. So we're really just lacking somebody who can have the vision to kind of bring our libraries to where they should be. And I think that's really important.
And there
for our
would be
students.
a flow then from building to building, not
Right.
focused on one building, but it
Right.
would be a flow from building to building, and then with articulation.
We would still have the library clerks in each
Right.
building, but this position is really to help plan and expand and update our libraries across the district. And so it won't just be a one-time shot. I mean, it'll be as we build and as we get somebody in that position that has a background and probably visit other districts and see what we need to do.
That's what I was gonna ask, is if we earmark funds for that person
Sure.
to be able to go visit not only other high schools, but even like University of Illinois.
Right.
And then some continue that beyond that.
Yeah.
Just stay up with technology.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's the plan. That's what we've talked about in the committee and we'll continue. It'll be an ongoing item to talk about in the committee. And we're planning to earmark some of those ESSER funds as well to help expand and update our libraries in each of our buildings. So, but I think the one important point, and Shelley mentioned this, but I think it's important, it's more instructional. Okay, and so it is a different focus. And so I just want to make sure we talked about that at length in our committee. So.
Any other questions for Mrs. Back?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julie.
Okay, then I will entertain a motion and a second to approve the Family and Consumer Science and Library Media Specialist position beginning in 2022-23.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. Roll call?
Chad,
Yes.
Desha,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Jane, yes.
Okay, next we have the Technology Committee met. And Emily, our technology director, presented for us a one-to-one device rotation cycle. And that, of course, is the cycle where which grades we would be replacing the laptops in rotation, I guess. We obviously can't replace them all at one time. So I don't know, Brad, do you want to explain that a little
Yeah,
bit more?
It was easier
Emily
with a
had to-
chart in front of me that she had, but basically
Oh,
instead
okay.
of.
I thought we didn't put that in.
Yeah, like we did this time, we
So,
kind
yeah.
of did a one big push for purchasing a lot of the laptops at once. So she
You
came
have
up with a plan that we would stagger that purchase out over a multi-year cycle. We're handing things out here.
While we're waiting on that, I'll just want to make sure the board is clear. This is not an approval to purchase anything. It's an approval for us, just so the cycle is known. Any approvals or any recommendations will go through the committee, will then come to the board. And but this was the breakdown of going back and forth about how, now that we have all these devices, how do we plan on making it sustainable?
Yeah, so if you start from left to right across this form, you can see, starting with the current year when the laptops were purchased, if you go to 22, 23 is probably the best place to start. You'll see the grade levels that we will start to replace. The technologies like 22, 23, you'll see the 9th, 23, 24, 6th, 9th, 5th, 3rd. So in those years, we're targeting to replace those devices in those grades. And really, we're using a 5-3-4 cycle. So depending on the grade level, now I'm transitioning to the bottom of the sheet. You'll see in each grade level kind of the approximate number of years we'll be getting out of those devices. So for example, in first grade, we'll be looking at 4.5 years for each device before it is scheduled for replacement. Second, 5.5 years. And Emily felt like that gives enough longevity out of those devices. And plus, we're not replacing all of the devices every year, right? This allows us to stagger the entire cycle to where basically like the freshmen, as an example, will have those devices through the 4 years that they're in school. And then, we'll start over again with each freshman class and replace those devices, and they'll have them for each of the 4 years. So again, allowing us just stagger these out.
And those younger students in first and second grade, for instance, would be using those devices less than the older students, just based on what they do in school. So,
and you can
that's
see
what-
the cost breakdown here in kind of that purple column through the middle. Then that each year will be the budgeted amount we'll expect to spend on laptops or iPad devices for that year. One thing we did talk about, and I know we didn't come to an agreement on it yet, was a technology fee. We did discuss that as well, but nothing. At this point, you can see that in that kind of pinkish column there. There's a question mark for that. That's a future discussion item.
And I think also along those lines, we talked a little bit about whether to offer insurance to parents as a supplemental. So those are types of things that the committee's still looking at, gathering more information, and probably address that here in February or March when we decide on a fee list.
And you could see it's going to take us really until 25, 26 to get to the point where we are in an even cycle then every year of replacement as far as cost goes. It's just going to take us that long to kind of even it out. So
I just want to say thank you to the committee, but also thank you to Emily for putting this together. Did a lot of legwork in regards to listening and looking at options. Obviously, this is subject to change, but the committee felt like we needed, and we did as well, wanted to make sure that there was some sort of plan in place. And then also, I think the business office, Mr. Fox and myself, we've talked about being able to afford it, and this is something that we feel that the district can cover on moving forward.
right. Okay. All right, then I will entertain a motion and a second to approve the 1-to-1 rotation cycle as presented.
We'll make that motion.
Motion by Brad, I'll second it. Roll call.
Tricia,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Jane, yes, Chad.
Yes.
All right, that brings us to the turf project.
Okay, Mr. Custer, would you want to move up and sit here? So I've shared quite a bit of information as we move, things have moved forward. And I'll start off a little bit and then I'll let Chris talk a little bit more. Information I shared with you, last time this came up, there was a question about the type of board and the scoreboard and all that. So we updated and got information on that, shared that number with you. So the project with the turf, the shock pad, the scoreboard, moving the pole vault runway and the soil stabilization if needed, would be $1,465,119. One of the things that came up since our last meeting in December, last week, I guess, a couple weeks ago, is the idea of fully automatic timing. And so fully automatic timing is for the track program. And in order to host a sectional, IHSA sectional, you have to have FAT timing. We have an older system that's 15, 20 years old, probably. Push 20. So, in fact, in speaking with our track coach who was going to go to Sports Backers and at least talk about that. And so I talked with Chris. We got some numbers from Nevco. I've included those. The price was to totally upgrade to where we need to be was $6,200 total, which was a lot less than what I estimated to be. So if we're going to do this, I put that in there as an option to finalize that would help the track program as well, both track programs, boys and girls. So the total of the project, and we had a meeting last week with Vernon Jones, the installer, then also Nevco. So these numbers are pretty solid, or $1,471,396. At our last meeting, we talked about 50% of that. The board did, and that would be $735,698. Okay. So with that being said, I will turn it over to Mr. Custer just in regard. Before that, are there any questions about the numbers or the information that's shared with you? Clarifications? Tried to answer as many questions as possible. I do have what the field will look like if it's approved. Will be over there. So with that, hearing none, I will turn it over to Mr. Custer and have him share, please.
Thank you, Mark, and good evening, everyone. And it's so much easier to deliver great news to people, and that's why I'm here. We would have sent someone else with bad news. So seriously, thanks to the incredibly hard work and energy of my colleagues on the Sports Backers Board, the incredible generosity of this Effingham business community, and thanks to a handful of folks who are unbelievably charitable, philanthropic, and always civic-minded about anything you go to, it is my distinct pleasure to advise the board tonight that we have actually exceeded the 50% goal, even using the new numbers, and have actually received commitments of more than $736,000 for this district turf project, including the video board we add on. We met 48 days ago tonight and talked about this for the first time. And I know at the time I was concerned about the time frame here we were working with. But the fact that we were able to do this in such a short period of time, I think speaks volumes to the enthusiasm that everyone's had for this project. It has really, really been incredible. And many of you know I am the internal optimist. I had no idea this would happen this quickly. And I understand that it'd be premature to share with you the actual names of the donors and the actual numbers, but I can't wait to do so. And I hope you give me the opportunity to stand on top of a mountain and share these folks with you. And you know them. You could probably guess who they are. But it really is exciting. And I think it certainly, if the board adopts this plan, I think it paves the way to future public-private sector partnerships for academic programs, equipment. We all realize, the business community realizes that a good school district attracts good people and great businesses and is good for all of us, whether we have kids still in the school or not. So it's incredibly exciting. I think the 736 is rock solid. At 9:30 tomorrow morning, I'm going to get a phone call, and we could go to 750, $750,000 in 48 days. So I want to thank this board for not settling for mediocrity, for being not settling for business as usual, and be willing to accept and consider doing something really exciting for this project, and perhaps again paving the way for future projects, including the private folks that we have. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but everyone has worked hard on this, including everyone in front of me and behind me, and it's exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
One of the things that I thought might be important this evening, because the last time we met, we had, Mr. Custer was here and another representative from Sports Backers, and we had some coaches and a band director, and the board was a public meeting, but we were the only people that were here, and it wasn't broadcast. So I thought at that time we shared some of our thoughts about it. And I thought maybe we should take a couple of minutes to share some of those now that it's more public and we have a bigger audience tonight. Maybe they might understand some of our thinking process before we move ahead with this. I know some people may have some things to say tonight before we do that. So anybody?
I would
Oh,
just
that's it. I
like to
take
voice just a few concerns about moving forward at this pace. If we vote tonight to go forward with this, then it's a done deal and we put our down payment down and it's paid for. And how do you continue to ask people for money or raise money once that is done? Legitimately, how do you, I have a feeling that there are a lot of people who are proud, successful alumni that may not even be a part of the Sports Backers that would be willing to donate significant amounts of money. And how do we go about having a fundraising effort when this portion's already done? I wanted to know people's thoughts on that, on how that happens.
Well, I think, at our last meeting, I think it was discussed that there was talk, or there has been talk about a spring push just to allow those that this was really pushed forward because of a time frame, and that's why in 48 days or whatever that was. So the idea of a possible spring moneymaker or spring fund drive was something that has been discussed. Again, we need to, as a school district, to tap into that alumni group, whether they're here
Or
somewhere else. And so I think the idea, what I keep thinking and going back to, are the future projects that may come out of this, not just this, but other projects that the district has that may be somebody else's interest, not athletics. And so I think this is it's really a huge momentum builder to be able to do that. So how do you do it? You move forward and you do it. And then some people are going to participate. Some are going to say, I want to donate, but I only want to donate to this. Those are the types of things that you work towards. So when you hear about public-private partnerships in the future, what could that be? It could be a lot of things. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think there are people that will feel like, hey, I want to be a part of this and I want to donate $100 or $200 or $500. So, Chris.
And one of my big concerns that we did talk about at the last meeting is that, and by then I can't recall where we were. We had made incredible progress and had a significant amount of money at the time. We weren't there yet. But one concern that we talked about at the last board meeting was if we don't do it, if all these folks have come up with this kind of money and we said no, that money is going to go somewhere. It will not go here. And what my concern was, if we said no, I suspect we would not be able to tap into that next year or the following year because they're excited like we are excited. And that would be the big concern is that, and they all realize that the board votes, the board says yes or no, nothing's a done deal. But if we have this kind of enthusiasm, this kind of hard work, and then for whatever reason we say no, I think that does just the opposite of paving the way for future projects. And I completely understand where you're coming from, and we simply give the time frame, and that's what got so people excited. When is this going to happen? Did it happen next year? Yes, as long as we can get this done by the end of the year. And that was part of the reason everybody stepped up so quickly. But it's been amazing, and nothing but positive.
I'd like to take a couple of minutes too, just to kind of convey the journey that my thinking has gone through here, because I think there are people out there who don't necessarily think this is a wonderful idea. And I, was very open when we started this process that I thought that it was a crazy idea to spend that much money on artificial turf when there were so many other needs that I could imagine in the district, and I could hear the teachers in the district having that big gasp at it. And now, I've moved a long way down the road. And so I kind of wanted to just go through that thinking process that I'd gone through, and maybe that would answer some of the questions that others might be having. Because I knew from the beginning that we had the money. All right, it was never a matter of whether we had enough money to pay for our share of this or whatever we came up with, because we do have that money available in working cash. It's kind of our savings account for a rainy day. We put money in it every year. If we don't use it, then every few years we do something special with it, a special project. And so the money's available. That was not a question. It's not coming out of salaries. It's not coming out of books. It's not coming out of anything like that. It's a kind of our rainy day fund, and it's ready for a special project. My first reaction was that it was crazy to spend that much money on turf. We have so many other projects we could spend it on. And I was surprised, though, at how positive a response there was in the community so quickly. That surprised me. Big donations, huge donations. And I was also surprised, although I had a few people say to me, that's crazy, I was really surprised by the lack of negative reactions en masse. I expected to hear from a ton of teachers. I did not. I expected our email to get a lot of email responses. In our board email, we got none that I remember. So I was very surprised that we didn't have those negative contacts about it's crazy for you to spend that much money on artificial turf. So I began to think, okay, so maybe my thinking is a little off kilter. So I tried to start thinking about the major question I had: should we be spending this money on artificial turf instead of other things, instead of things that were academic, things that would impact more kids? And so what have we spent our money on? I started thinking, well, we have just spent $18 million on a renovation of the junior high. I guess you better call it a transformation, not a renovation. It's a huge transformation. We've upgraded ventilation, HVAC systems in our buildings so that we have better air for our students. We spent several $1 million going one-to-one technology so that every student in our district has a laptop, or kindergarten students have an iPad. We created new positions in the elementary grades for math interventionists to support our students with their math learning. We added a position for an elementary counselor so that one is in every building and they don't have to move around from building to building. Tonight, we have added back a family and consumer science position so we can have a child and daycare program again. We are going to have a district librarian so that we can upgrade all the libraries in our buildings. And those are just a few of the things that popped right in my mind quickly. And we've done so many other things too. So this money is a lot for extracurricular. And we heard from coaches and a band director and a PE teacher about all the ways it would benefit kids. And it will benefit a lot of our kids. And we know that research has shown for years that students participating in extracurricular activities they benefit so much. They have so much more success after school, usually, than kids that don't, because they learn so many valuable life skills, working with other people, time management, those things they get besides just playing a sport. There are many life skills that they get. So whether it's a sport or whether it's band or whether it's student council or whatever, all of those extracurriculars are huge for our kids. So we need to support not just the academics for our students, but we need to support the extracurriculars too. And that's kind of how I've come to grips with it. What we're really doing is this time we're supporting the extracurricular part of it for the whole student, just trying to address the whole student's needs. And I think that Mr. Custer hit on, to me, what one of the most important results of this project is, and that is the school and community connection that has been made. To me, that is something that we hope will continue in the future. And obviously, this is still a lot of money, no matter how you look at it, but it holds so many benefits for our students, not just our athletes. And this time it's artificial turf, but maybe next time it's some academic program or it's something about something else. And so that's to me how I kind of came to grips with spending this much money on artificial turf and a nice scoreboard. So, thanks. All right, anybody else?
Just, for me, it's been, I've thought about the project different times, and then I've shared a couple of these stories from time to time, but I have 3 friends from college that, one is a football coach at Columbia that had asked me about, and we almost played them in a playoff a couple of years ago and so forth, and we were talking about facilities. He was, always wondered why Effingham doesn't have turf like Columbia. Columbia is relatively similar in size. And then I have another friend, well, I'm not as close to because he's from Mount Zion, but he's still a friend, bragging about their facilities and stuff as well. And then it wasn't until I was taking my daughter to a volleyball practice on Saturday morning, and I was really kind of just thinking about it from an athletic perspective and, the teams and other teams that would use it until I saw the band trying to cross not the highway, but the road there between the junior high and the high school on a Saturday morning. And that's when I shared with Jason. I said, it's something else and that was in the daytime. That wasn't even trying to do it, at nighttime, this time of year. So, and then we started the discussions, and then another friend of mine is the principal at Macomb, and they have turf as well. And I said, how much pushback did you get at Macomb when you first started discussing that? And he said, in the beginning, there was some pushback and some concerns and so forth. But he said, once we got it, and then we started to realize all the different opportunities we had on it, even with the younger grades to be able to come over and use that for different activities and so forth, said nobody complains. It's a great opportunity, and they've had more uses for the turf than what they anticipated even in the beginning. And so once again, though, everyone knows I grew up in Florida, but I'm very proud to be a part of this community, especially for them to come together and pull these kinds of resources and funds together. And I do think it'll open the door to other opportunities for us in the future too, if we're successful with this partnership.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Let's make a motion.
Okay, then I will entertain a motion and a second to approve the turf project at EHS Sports Complex and direct the administration to move forward with implementation preparation.
Motion.
There you go, guys. Let's do it.
Motion by Steve, second by Chad. Roll call?
Steve,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Jane, yes, Chad,
Yes.
Desha.
Yes. All
Very
right. Motion carries.
You're all amazing. Thank you. And please, call me about the academics. Call me about the library. Very exciting.
You'll be hearing from me.
Well, this,
Good night. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, I'll entertain a motion and a second to enter into closed session for student discipline, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of a specific employee of the district, and litigation.
Make a motion.
Motion by Chad, is there a second? Second by Steve, roll call?
Steve,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Desha,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Jane, yes.
We're now going into closed session. Okay, 5-minute break.